Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Swansky? Yes.
We are adjourned. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for December 21, 2021. I call this meeting to order and again ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee DEYNE?
Here.
Gansey? Here. Gunstein? Here. Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky? Swansky? Here. President Wallace?
Here. Two items on our agenda this evening, both under Finance and Golf. Chairman DEYNE.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item we have is the debt refunding bond. And with that, I would like Todd to fill us in on this.
Chairman DEYNE, included in your packet is some hypothetical savings that we could have if we have a refund our outstanding 2016 bonds. Those bonds were issued for the police station construction. Currently, the call date, it would be an advanced refunding because the call date isn't until approximately 2026, but there are potential gross savings right now about $902,000 or present value savings of $773 with numbers that we ran a little while ago. And also included is an opportunity to refinance our IEPA loans from back in 2014 at a lower reduced rate. Elena Welcomer is here with us. She's our bond advisor. I'm going to have her go over some of the numbers and just give you a little more detail in regard to these bonds.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So up on the screen here, I'm going to briefly go through the two refunding candidates. This is very similar to a mortgage refinancing. You have outstanding debt at higher interest rates, and because of the unique market environment we're in, it's an opportune time to refinance this at lower interest rates and capture some debt service savings. The first series is the 2016 bonds. Again, Todd mentioned this was to finance the police station. The call date is not out until January 1 of 2026, but under current tax law, you can refinance that in advance of that call date, but it has to be done at taxable interest rates. Again, because the U.S. Treasury rates are so low right now, it's an opportune time to capture some savings. And this was a similar type of refinancing the village did essentially a year ago for your 2012 bonds. So a couple of things that I'll note is the 2016 bonds have an outstanding coupon rate of 5%. In the current market, we're estimating we can bring that down to about 2.3%, and that's where that savings comes from. This is currently paid out of a property tax levy, so this would lower the future tax burden on taxpayers. We're estimating the annual savings to be roughly $60,000, and in aggregate, that's a little over $900,000. The second refunding opportunity is the IEPA loan. That has an outstanding rate of 2.295%. That can be refinanced at any time without a prepayment penalty through the IEPA, and that can be done at tax-exempt rates, and we're estimating roughly 1.3% in the current market. So those savings would be realized in the sewer fund. While it would show up on an annual basis in your tax levy, just like your DuPage Water Commission loan that we refinanced last year, the intent is to abate that property tax levy and use sewer revenues to make the debt service payments going forward.
I don't think there's a whole lot of questions. These are pretty straightforward things. The environment right now, there's really no question that it would make sense, so I don't have any questions.
Is this going to, I mean, I read somewhere in the packet, I don't know what page it was on, regarding levying taxes to pay for the bonds. Did we levy taxes? We did levy taxes back at the time, right?
But this is just future savings because the interest rate's lower.
So as soon as the bonds are priced and we know the final levy amounts, there will be a separate filing made with the county, so adjustments can be made to this coming year's levy cycle, so you're not levying too much.
Yeah, good question. Anything else?
What's like the next bond we would look at, or how do you just take a look at these yearly, or like what's like the next year we would look at?
Yeah, I bug Todd pretty frequent with refunding opportunities. We're always keeping an eye out. What's the next one coming up? A lot of that depends on the call date. Anything beyond 2026 call date really isn't attractive right now. So it depends on the call feature on the bonds along with the interest rate, and given that these 2016 bonds have the 5% coupon, that's what makes it an attractive opportunity. So I can't think off the top of my head when the next one might come down the pipeline, but we're always keeping an eye out and check in with Todd at least a couple of times a year.
Under the 2016 bonds, the hypothetical refunding, the 99390,
It's larger. Is that what you're?
is that the principal in the bonds right now that needs to be paid? Is that what we need to pay right now?
No, so the column labeled assumed refunded par amount, that represents the par amount we are refinancing. And the reason why the hypothetical refunding bond par amount is larger is because the call date is out into 2026, we're not only refunding the par amount, but we're also refunding accrued interest through that date, since you can't call it until that date. So that's the reason for the larger par amount. But despite the larger par amount, because of the low interest rate environment, you're still able to capture the savings that we're showing here.
So what is the 11,700,000 that is in here?
So there are two maturities that are not economical to refinance right now. So the call date is in 2026. You'll see in the column below the 8.4 million. This analysis assumes that you refund the 2029 through 2037. So there's two more maturities, the 2027 and 2028, that aren't baked into this scenario here. Those are net losers if we refunded them at today's rates. To give you flexibility, not knowing where the market's going to be at the time we price these bonds, we threw in all callable maturities. So if rates rally between now and late January and we can refund those for some additional savings, we can do that. That totals roughly $1.5 million that we're not refunding in this scenario you're looking at.
What project was the IEPA loan for?
That was for the improvements at the wastewater treatment plant in DuPage.
When you refund it, it still will be paid for out of the sewer fund?
Yes, it will be.
What else? Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Next item we have on the agenda, Mr. President, is the 2021/22 six-month budget review.
In 3 minutes or less.
All right, Todd? On the clock.
Thank you. I know that there's
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it very much.
Well done, Ray.
all right, you ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to go over quickly then. Stop me if you need to. But so the first column is where we're at through October. Our budget for the entire year. The second column is where we're through October. The percent of the budget where we're at, then where I'm projecting we'll end up, and then the difference between projected and the budget. So our revenues, I'm projecting $26.5 million. That's about $1.4 million over budget. And I'll skip my notes, but again, income tax is higher than projected. The state has had trouble. We use the Illinois Municipal League's projections, and the state was really underestimating the income taxes, and so that's why our income taxes are expected to be almost $800,000 over what we budgeted. Also up is the local use tax. We moved our budget from the local use tax to the sales tax, thinking that was going to drop quite a bit as they changed the sales tax structure, but it didn't drop nearly as much. So between the income tax and the use tax still being up, that's the majority of why we're going to be over on the income side. On the expense side, there are departments vary, mainly professional services. We have some projects that aren't going to be completed with the unified code. In admin, it's some of the BETA money that won't be spent. planning and development, we've got review fees that are lower than expected. In the police department, as you've seen, we've had 6 retirements since the beginning of the year. So when you have somebody retire, it takes some time to fill all those positions. We've got a number of, I think there's 3 positions that are still unfilled as far as police officers go. So 100,000 is pretty conservative, but we will be under budget in that regard. In the streets department, it depends how much snow we get. So I really couldn't say at this time, but I won't say anything. I won't jinx Dan. So we should be about 484 or 500,000 to the positive. We budgeted to use about 1 million in the general fund, and so to end up with a surplus of about 500,000 is very good. On the water side, water consumption still continues to be high. During the pandemic, it increased. It's down just slightly, but it's still over what we normally budget for water, so a little over. And the DuPage Water Commission did not raise the rates last year, so our water charges, or what we're paying for our water to the DuPage Water Commission, is lower than expected. $2,300,000 surplus, that's going towards capital projects, so it's not really extra money that we're accumulating, but it does go towards our capital projects. The sewer side, operating revenues is also up. Those are based on water usage, water consumption. We've also have been charging surcharge fees to some of our commercial out in the Brewster Creek Business Park as far as the pretreatment requirements, and so we've been collecting extra revenue that way. Operating expenses, we did spend extra money as far as sludge removal and emergency situation we had out there this summer, so we're going to be just about a budget. We've been able to save some money in some other ways. The parking, as you all know, is still not being used to capacity. $50,000 for revenue for the year is a little generous. I think we ended up at $30,000 or less last year. So we are trying to cut expenses where we can. As far as golf, we are doing very well on the golf course. As far as rounds of golf, there's still activity going on in December. We're expecting people out on Christmas Day again, so people are still golfing. Banquet side is starting to pick up. We don't really know what's going on with the COVID in the next few months, but it's doing a lot better than last year. Not quite up to where we budgeted. So ended up about $95,000 under budget total revenue on the golf side. Expenses, and we're looking like we're going to be under budget in most areas. So then we're expecting about break even or 50,000. So that's pretty much break even. Again, that's on a budgetary basis. We still have, you know, that the golf fund is in the hole right now. A lot of that is due to depreciation expense that's not on this budgetary basis, but we are doing good on the cash flow basis for the golf fund. So that is it, unless there's any questions.
Any questions?
Regard to funds, I just went over the operating funds at this time. I know we talked about the capital budget previously, but for the operating funds, we're doing, the village is doing well during this time.
Overall, looks good.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd. Any other questions? Mr. President, that's all we have for this evening.
All right. Once again, Merry Christmas, everyone. Wish you all a healthy and happy holiday. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Moved by Trustee DEYNE, seconded by Trustee Gunstein. Will the clerk please call the roll? For
Trustee,
the last time, for 2021.
Trustee DEYNE,
Yes, yes.
Gansey? Yes. Gunstein? Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Merry Christmas, you guys.